Atlanta, Georgia, June 15, 2023. St. Augustine Cathedral stands magnificently against the summer sky, its bells announcing a celebration. Inside, 150 guests gather to witness what they believe will be the union of two souls destined for eternal happiness. They have no idea they're about to witness something else entirely. By the time the sun sets on this day, a marriage will end before it truly begins. A bride will be left traumatized and humiliated, and a groom's carefully constructed facade will shatter in the most violent, public way imaginable. This is the story of what happens when lies, betrayal, and hidden rage collide on what's supposed to be the happiest day of someone's life. This is the story of a wedding that became a crime scene of broken promises and shattered dreams. Vanessa Caldwell is 29 years old, an elementary school teacher at Riverside Academy, 3rd grade, the kind of teacher children remember decades later. Patient, creative, genuinely invested in her students' lives. Vanessa grew up in Atlanta's historic West End neighborhood. Her father, Deacon Raymond Caldwell, serves at Mount Zion Baptist Church, where the family has been members for 3 generations. Her mother, Patricia, leads the women's ministry. Faith isn't just part of Vanessa's life. It is the foundation of everything she believes about the world. By all accounts, Vanessa is the kind of woman mothers want their sons to marry. Educated, grounded, kind. She volunteers at the church food bank every Saturday morning. She sends handwritten birthday cards. She still has dinner with her parents every Sunday after service. At 29, Vanessa wants what she's been raised to want: marriage, family, a partnership built on shared values and mutual respect. She's dated throughout her 20s, but nothing serious, nothing that felt right, until she meets him. Troy Bennett is 32. On paper, he's everything Vanessa has been looking for. Financial advisor at Crestwood Wealth Management, one of Atlanta's premier investment firms. Well-dressed, well-spoken, confident without being arrogant. He drives a late-model Lexus, lives in a modern apartment in Buckhead, presents himself as a man who has his life together. Troy grew up in Macon, Georgia, moved to Atlanta for college, never left. He tells people he's building a life here, building a future. He's active at Cornerstone Fellowship, a megachurch in Sandy Springs. Not just a Sunday attendee, he's on the Young Professionals Committee, volunteers for community outreach events, leads a men's Bible study group every Thursday evening. When Troy walks into a room, people notice. He has that quality, charisma mixed with approachability. He makes eye contact, remembers names, asks questions that make you feel like you're the most interesting person he's spoken to all day. On the surface, Troy Bennett is exactly who he appears to be, but surfaces can be deceiving. February 2022, a church singles retreat in the North Georgia mountains. Vanessa attends with her friend Jasmine. Troy attends with his men's group. They meet during a group discussion about faith and relationships. The connection is immediate. Troy seeks Vanessa out during every break. They talk for hours about their families, their faith, their dreams for the future. Troy tells Vanessa he's been praying for a woman like her, someone genuine, someone who shares his values, someone who understands that a godly marriage is the foundation for everything else. Vanessa is captivated. They exchange numbers. Troy calls the next day, and the day after that. Within 2 weeks, they're inseparable. Troy is attentive in ways Vanessa's previous boyfriends never were. He sends her scripture verses in the morning, brings her coffee at school during her lunch break, plans thoughtful dates, not just dinner and movies, but picnics at Piedmont Park, visits to the Atlanta Botanical Garden, cooking classes they take together. Vanessa's friends are impressed. Jasmine tells her she's found a good one. Her mother approves. Troy is respectful, well-mannered, asks permission before proposing to take Vanessa out of town for a weekend trip. But there are moments, small things that Vanessa notices but dismisses. Troy occasionally checks her phone when she leaves it on the table. He asks detailed questions about her male colleagues at school. Who is Jeremy? Why does he email you so often? What were you laughing about? When Vanessa plans a girls' night, Troy grows quiet, withdrawn. He doesn't forbid her from going, but his disappointment is palpable. Vanessa tells herself this is just how much he cares. He's invested. He's serious about their relationship. After 8 months, Troy proposes. He does it during Sunday service at Cornerstone Fellowship, getting down on one knee in front of the entire congregation. The sanctuary erupts in applause. Vanessa, overwhelmed and emotional, says yes. The engagement period lasts 10 months. Troy suggests they see the church counselor for premarital sessions. They attend faithfully, 6 sessions where they discuss communication, conflict resolution, family planning, finances. Troy performs perfectly in these sessions. He talks about partnership, mutual respect, shared decision-making. The counselor tells them they're one of the most compatible couples he's worked with. But privately, things are shifting. Troy becomes increasingly controlling. He wants to know where Vanessa is at all times. He insists on having access to her email and social media passwords. For transparency, he says, so there are no secrets between them. When Vanessa hesitates, Troy reminds her that marriage requires complete openness. Vanessa complies. She tells herself this is what commitment looks like. Troy begins making decisions without consulting her. He chooses the wedding venue. He vetoes Vanessa's choice of bridesmaids' dresses, saying they're too revealing. When Vanessa objects, Troy becomes cold for days until she apologizes. Jasmine notices Vanessa becoming more anxious, more uncertain. She pulls Vanessa aside one afternoon and asks directly, "Is everything okay with Troy?" Vanessa becomes defensive. Troy is stressed about the wedding, about work. He's just particular about how he wants things. That's not a bad quality in a partner. Jasmine drops it, but she's worried. The week before the wedding, Vanessa's mother sits her daughter down for what she believes will be a routine conversation. Advice about marriage, about patience and compromise, and choosing your battles. Instead, Patricia Caldwell asks a question that catches Vanessa off guard. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Vanessa is stunned. What kind of question is that to ask 6 days before her wedding? Patricia chooses her words carefully. She's noticed things. The way Troy monitors Vanessa's movements, the way he answers questions on Vanessa's behalf, the way Vanessa has changed, less spontaneous, less herself. Vanessa becomes angry. After everything, the deposits paid, the invitations sent, the arrangements made, her own mother is questioning whether she should marry Troy. Patricia backs down. She tells Vanessa she loves her and wants her to be happy. That's all any mother wants. Vanessa leaves her parents' house shaken but determined. She's committed to Troy. They're building a life together. Cold feet are normal. Doubt is normal. She tells herself everything will be fine once they're married. She has no idea how wrong she is. Meanwhile, Troy is having his own crisis. His best man, a college friend named Darius, meets Troy for breakfast the morning of the rehearsal dinner. Darius has known Troy for over a decade. He knows things about his friend that most people don't. Darius asks Troy point blank, "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Troy's response is defensive, almost aggressive. Why is everyone questioning him? He's marrying Vanessa. They're perfect together. Darius doesn't push, but he leaves the conversation with a sinking feeling in his stomach. Something is very wrong.
If you want to uncover more chilling true crime stories and see justice exposed, subscribe to Crime Vaults as we bring light to the darkest true crime cases and never miss the secrets hidden in plain sight.
June 15th. The day has arrived. Vanessa wakes in her childhood bedroom, surrounded by her bridesmaids. Jasmine, her maid of honor, has organized breakfast, mimosas and pastries from Vanessa's favorite bakery. The energy is celebratory, but Vanessa is quiet. Jasmine asks if she slept well. Vanessa admits she barely slept at all. Wedding jitters, she says, completely normal. But it's not just jitters. Vanessa has a knot in her stomach that won't go away. A voice in her head asking questions she doesn't want to answer. She pushes it down. Today is her wedding day. Everything will be fine. Across town, Troy is getting ready with his groomsmen at his apartment. The atmosphere here is different, tense, subdued. Troy is drinking whiskey at 10 in the morning, unusual for someone who rarely drinks before evening. Darius watches his friend with growing concern. Troy is agitated, checking his phone constantly, responding to messages with visible frustration. Darius asks if Troy wants to talk. Troy snaps at him. "Everything's fine. Why does everyone keep asking if he's okay?" The groomsmen exchange glances but say nothing. At 11:30, Troy's phone rings. He looks at the screen, and his face goes pale. He steps into his bedroom and closes the door. The groomsman can hear his voice through the walls, sharp, angry, desperate. When Troy emerges 15 minutes later, he looks like he might be sick. Darius pulls him aside. "What's going on, man?" Troy tells him it was nothing, a work thing. Everything's handled. It's not a work thing, but Darius won't find out the truth until it's far too late. 2 o'clock, St. Augustine Cathedral. Vanessa walks down the aisle on her father's arm, looking radiant in her lace gown. The church is filled with flowers, white roses and peonies, Vanessa's favorites. Sunlight streams through the stained glass windows, casting colored light across the congregation. Troy stands at the altar, watching Vanessa approach. To the guests, he looks like any nervous groom. But those who know him well notice something off. His jaw is clenched. His hands are trembling. His eyes are distant, unfocused. The ceremony proceeds. The pastor speaks about love, commitment, covenant. Troy and Vanessa exchange vows, to love and to cherish, in sickness and in health, for better or for worse. Troy's voice cracks when he says, "I do." Vanessa notices. She squeezes his hand, thinking he's overcome with emotion. She has no idea what's actually running through his mind. The pastor pronounces them husband and wife. They kiss. The congregation applauds. Vanessa and Troy walk back down the aisle together as the organ plays. In the photographs taken immediately after the ceremony, careful observers might notice something. While Vanessa is glowing, genuinely happy, Troy looks like a man barely holding himself together. The reception is held at the Piedmont Grand Ballroom, an elegant venue in Midtown Atlanta. 150 guests are seated at tables decorated with gold and ivory. A live band plays. The bar is open. The energy is festive, but at the head table, the mood is different. Vanessa keeps trying to engage Troy in conversation, but he's barely responsive. He answers in monosyllables. He's drinking heavily, glass after glass of whiskey, far more than he would typically consume. Vanessa asks if he's feeling okay. Troy tells her he's fine, then immediately turns away to talk to Darius. The groomsmen notice. The bridesmaids notice. Jasmine leans over to Vanessa and whispers, "Is Troy all right?" Vanessa forces a smile. He's just overwhelmed. Big day. But she doesn't believe her own words. Throughout dinner, Troy's agitation builds. He's checking his phone under the table. At one point, he stands abruptly and walks outside, staying gone for nearly 10 minutes. When he returns, his eyes are red, his expression dark. Vanessa is now genuinely frightened. Something is very wrong. She touches his arm. "Troy, what's happening? Talk to me." Troy jerks his arm away. "Not now, Vanessa." The nearby guests fall silent. The band is still playing, but the tension at the head table is unmistakable. Jasmine exchanges a look with Darius. Both of them realize simultaneously this day is not going to end well. 8 o'clock. The DJ makes an announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the bride and groom to cut the cake." The ballroom erupts in applause. Guests gather around the dance floor, phones out, ready to capture the moment. The wedding cake is a masterpiece. 5 tiers of ivory fondant decorated with sugar flowers, displayed on a table draped in white silk. Vanessa and Troy approach the table together. A photographer positions herself for the perfect shot. The DJ cues up music. Guests are smiling, cheering, anticipating the traditional moment when the couple feeds each other cake. Vanessa picks up the silver cake knife. Troy's hand joins hers on the handle. They make the first cut together as cameras flash. Vanessa cuts a small piece of cake and lifts it toward Troy's mouth, smiling. It's playful, affectionate. She dabs a tiny bit of frosting on his nose, the traditional gesture that guests always love. And Troy explodes. It happens so fast that most guests don't immediately understand what they're seeing. Troy jerks backward, violently shoving Vanessa's hand away. Cake and frosting smear across both of them. Vanessa stumbles, catching herself against the table. Then Troy starts screaming. The words that come out of his mouth are venomous, hateful. He calls Vanessa controlling, manipulative. He accuses her of humiliating him, of making him look like a fool. He references things that make no sense to anyone listening. Lies, games, disrespect. Vanessa is frozen, her face white with shock. "Troy, what are you— Don't touch me!" Troy's voice is loud enough that the band stops playing. The ballroom goes silent. Troy grabs a handful of cake from the table and throws it, not at Vanessa, but onto the floor. Then he sweeps his arm across the display, sending the top 2 tiers crashing down. The sound of breaking porcelain echoes through the ballroom. Guests gasp. Several people scream. Children start crying. Vanessa is sobbing now, her hands covering her face. "Troy, please stop, please!" But Troy isn't stopping. He kicks over the table, sending the remaining cake sliding across the floor. He rips off his jacket and throws it. He knocks over chairs as he moves toward the exit. Darius and 2 other groomsmen rush forward, trying to restrain him. Troy shoves them away. "Get off me!" Vanessa's father, Deacon Caldwell, is moving toward Troy now, his face furious. "What did you do to my daughter?" Troy spins around, pointing at Vanessa. Ask her about the lies." But before anyone can respond, Troy storms out of the ballroom, slamming the double doors behind him. The ballroom is in chaos. Vanessa collapses into her mother's arms, hyperventilating, unable to speak. Patricia Caldwell holds her daughter, while Jasmine and the other bridesmaids form a protective circle around them. Deacon Caldwell is heading for the exit, intent on following Troy. 2 of his brothers-in-law grab him, holding him back. "Not now, Raymond. Not here." Guests are standing, confused and horrified. Some are leaving. Others are approaching Vanessa's family, asking if there's anything they can do. The venue staff stands frozen, unsure how to handle what just happened. Darius pulls Deacon Caldwell aside, away from the crowd. His face is grave. "Sir, there's something you need to know." What Darius reveals in the next 5 minutes changes everything. Troy Bennett has been living a double life. For the past 6 weeks, while finalizing wedding plans, while attending premarital counseling, while standing before God and making vows, Troy has been having an affair with a woman named Keisha Morrison. Keisha works at Crestwood Wealth Management. She's 26, ambitious, unaware that Troy was actually getting married. Troy told her he was in a relationship that was ending, that Vanessa was an ex he was trying to let down gently. Darius knew. He found out 3 weeks ago when he saw Troy with Keisha at a restaurant in Virginia Highland. Troy swore him to secrecy, promised he would
end things before the wedding. He didn't.
That morning, the morning of his wedding, Troy received a call from Keisha. She had found out about the wedding. A mutual acquaintance mentioned seeing Troy's marriage announcement in the church newsletter. Keisha was furious, devastated. She threatened to show up at the cathedral and expose him in front of everyone. Troy begged her not to. He promised to call off the wedding, but he didn't. He went through with the ceremony anyway, knowing the entire time that his lies were about to unravel. The phone call during the reception, that was Keisha again. She told Troy she was done with him, that he was a liar and a coward, that he deserved whatever happened to him. And Troy, already drunk, already spiraling under the weight of his own deception, finally snapped. Deacon Caldwell stares at Darius in disbelief. "My daughter just married this man." Darius nods, his expression pained. "I know, sir, I'm sorry. I should have said something." The reception ends. Guests filter out, whispering, taking video footage and photos with them. By tomorrow, this will be all over social media. Vanessa is taken to a private room in the venue. A doctor who was attending as a guest checks her blood pressure, gives her water, suggests she consider going to the hospital. Vanessa refuses. She just wants to go home. But she can't go home. Her apartment is already sublet. Her belongings are packed. She was supposed to leave tonight for her honeymoon in Jamaica. Instead, Vanessa returns to her childhood bedroom, still wearing her wedding dress, her marriage over before it ever truly began. The next morning, Vanessa wakes up hoping it was all a nightmare. Then she sees her wedding dress crumpled on the floor, and reality crashes back. She doesn't cry. She's too numb for tears. Jasmine arrives at 9 with coffee and bagels. Vanessa hasn't eaten in over 24 hours, but she has no appetite. Instead, she asks Jasmine a question. Did I miss something? Was there something I should have seen? Jasmine doesn't know how to answer that. But over the next 48 hours, the answer becomes horrifyingly clear. Vanessa begins making calls. Not to Troy. She has no interest in hearing his explanations or excuses. Instead, she starts investigating the man she married. She contacts Darius, asking for names, details, everything he knows about Troy's life outside their relationship. Darius, guilt-ridden over his silence, tells her everything. The affair with Keisha was not Troy's first. There were others, multiple others, throughout their entire relationship. Women he met through work, through the gym, through online apps. Short-term flings that Troy ended before they became complicated. Keisha was different, only because she lasted longer, and because she found out about the wedding. Vanessa feels sick. Every moment of their relationship replays in her mind, now tainted with the knowledge of his lies. But it gets worse. Jasmine does some digging of her own. She calls a friend who works in human resources at a different investment firm. She asks a simple question: "Do you know anything about Troy Bennett?" The response is immediate. "Girl, stay away from him." Jasmine presses. Why? Because Troy Bennett has a history. Troy Bennett has been engaged before. Twice. His first engagement was 5 years ago, to a woman named Lauren Hayes. They met through mutual friends, dated for a year, got engaged. Lauren was a paralegal, religious, family-oriented. Very similar to Vanessa in many ways. The engagement lasted 3 months before Lauren ended it. She discovered Troy was cheating, not just once, but serially, with multiple women. When Lauren confronted him, Troy didn't apologize. He raged. He accused Lauren of snooping, of being controlling, of suffocating him. Lauren walked away. She was heartbroken but relieved. Troy's second engagement was 3 years ago, to a woman named Brittany Jackson. Same pattern. They met at church, dated, got engaged quickly. Brittany was a nurse, devoted to her faith, wanted marriage and family. 6 weeks before the wedding, Brittany started asking questions about Troy's finances. He'd been evasive about money, always claiming he was handling everything. Brittany wanted transparency. She wanted to see bank statements, understand their financial situation before they merged their lives. Troy exploded. He called off the engagement immediately, told Brittany she didn't trust him, that she was treating him like a criminal.
Brittany was devastated, but she later discovered that Troy was hiding significant debt, credit cards maxed out, loans he'd taken to maintain his lifestyle of expensive clothes, cars, dinners at upscale restaurants. Now, Jasmine tracks down both women. Neither is difficult to find. Both are still in Atlanta. Lauren agrees to speak with Vanessa over the phone. She's sympathetic, but not surprised. Troy is who he is: controlling, dishonest, unable to handle any challenge to his carefully constructed image. Lauren tells Vanessa something chilling. When she ended their engagement, Troy showed up at her apartment in the middle of the night. He pounded on her door, screaming, demanding she let him in. Lauren called the police. Troy left before they arrived, but Lauren filed a restraining order. She never saw him again. Until she saw the videos from Vanessa's wedding circulating on social media. Lauren tells Vanessa she's sorry. She wishes she could have warned her somehow. Brittany is equally forthcoming. She tells Vanessa that Troy's explosion at the wedding is completely in character. Troy cannot handle being exposed. His entire identity is built on the image he projects: successful, stable, godly. When that image cracks, he becomes violent. Not physically violent, Brittany clarifies, but emotionally, verbally destructive. Brittany also reveals something else. After their engagement ended, she learned from mutual friends that Troy had started seeing someone new within weeks, a woman from his church. Same pattern: whirlwind romance, love bombing, quick commitment. That relationship also ended badly, though Brittany doesn't know the details. Vanessa listens to these stories with a growing sense of horror. She's not Troy's victim, she's his latest victim in a long pattern of manipulation and deception. Keisha Morrison doesn't reach out to Vanessa. She doesn't feel entitled to. She knows she played a role in destroying Vanessa's wedding, even if she didn't fully understand what she was participating in. But Jasmine finds her. Jasmine is relentless when it comes to protecting her best friend. Keisha agrees to meet at a coffee shop in Buckhead. She's defensive at first, making it clear she had no idea Troy was actually getting married. He told her the relationship with Vanessa was over, that they were just tying up loose ends. Jasmine doesn't judge her, she just asks questions. Keisha explains how the affair started. Troy pursued her at work, charming and attentive. He took her to nice restaurants, sent her flowers, told her she was different from anyone he'd ever met. Keisha, who'd been single for over a year, was flattered. They'd been seeing each other for 6 weeks when Keisha found out about the wedding. A colleague mentioned seeing Troy's engagement announcement. Keisha confronted him immediately. Troy tried to lie at first, saying it was an old announcement from a previous relationship. But Keisha pulled up the church newsletter. The date was for the following weekend. Troy then shifted strategies. He admitted he was still technically engaged, but only because he didn't know how to get out of it. Vanessa was controlling, he said, possessive. She'd threatened to hurt herself if he left her. He was trying to let her down gently, but it was complicated. Keisha believed him at first, but as the wedding day approached and Troy made no move to call it off, she realized she'd been played. That's when she called him the morning of the wedding. She told him he was a coward and a liar. She said if he went through with marrying Vanessa while lying to both of them, he was proving he was incapable of being honest about anything. Troy begged her not to show up at the church. He promised he would fix everything. But he didn't. He went through with the ceremony. When Keisha called during the reception, it was to tell him she was done. She wanted nothing to do with him ever again. Keisha tells Jasmine she feels terrible about what happened to Vanessa. She knows her call contributed to Troy's explosion, but she also believes Vanessa deserves to know the truth about who she married. Jasmine asks one final question. Did Troy ever mention previous relationships, previous engagements? Keisha hesitates, then nods. He mentioned an ex who'd gone crazy, who'd accused him of cheating when he'd done nothing wrong. He said she even filed a false restraining order against him. That was Lauren. Troy, it seems, has a version of history that casts him as the victim in every scenario.
1 week after the wedding, Vanessa receives a letter in the mail. It's from a bank she's never done business with. The letter references a personal loan in her name, $15,000, taken out 3 months earlier. Vanessa's hands shake as she reads. She never took out a loan. She never even applied. She calls the bank immediately. After going through security questions, the representative explains that the loan was approved based on an application submitted online. The funds were deposited into an account ending in 7429. That's Troy's account number. Vanessa knows it by heart because they've been planning to merge their finances after the wedding. Troy took out a loan in Vanessa's name without her knowledge or consent. He forged her signature on the application. He used her social security number, her employment information, her credit history. This isn't just betrayal. This is fraud. This is identity theft. Vanessa's father insists they contact the police immediately. That same day, Vanessa files a report with the Atlanta Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit. The detective who takes her statement is sympathetic but not surprised. Financial fraud in the context of romantic relationships is more common than people realize. Abusers often use their partner's financial information to control them or to fund their own lifestyles. The detective asks if Vanessa knows what Troy used the money for. She doesn't, but she can guess. Funding his affair with Keisha, maintaining the expensive lifestyle that hides his debt, paying for the engagement ring he bought Vanessa while lying about everything else. The investigation is opened. Troy Bennett is now under criminal investigation, but Vanessa isn't done. She contacts a lawyer recommended by Jasmine's cousin. The lawyer specializes in family law and fraud cases. After hearing Vanessa's story, the lawyer is direct. You need an annulment, not a divorce. This marriage was based on fraud from the beginning. Troy concealed material facts, his affairs, his financial situation, his history. Under Georgia law, that's grounds for annulment. They begin the paperwork immediately. August 2023. 2 months after the wedding, Troy Bennett is charged with identity theft and theft by deception. The charges stem from the fraudulent loan he took out in Vanessa's name. Each charge carries a potential sentence of up to 10 years in prison. Troy hires a defense attorney, a sharp, expensive lawyer who immediately begins constructing a defense. The strategy is predictable. Troy claims Vanessa knew about the loan. He says they discussed it during their engagement, that she verbally agreed to let him use her credit because his own credit was temporarily compromised. He provides no evidence of this agreement because no such evidence exists. Troy also paints himself as the victim of the wedding incident. He claims Vanessa humiliated him deliberately during the cake cutting, that he felt provoked and disrespected in front of everyone they knew. His response, while regrettable, was the result of months of emotional manipulation by Vanessa. Again, no evidence. Just Troy's word against Vanessa's. But the prosecutor isn't swayed. They have bank records showing the loan money went directly to Troy's account. They have testimony from Vanessa, her family, and multiple witnesses who saw Troy's violent outburst. They have statements from Lauren and Brittany, establishing a pattern of behavior. The case is strong. Troy's lawyer approaches the prosecutor with a plea deal. Troy will plead guilty to reduced charges, 1 count of identity theft, in exchange for probation, restitution, and mandatory counseling. The prosecutor brings the offer to Vanessa. It's her decision whether to accept. Vanessa wrestles with this. Part of her wants Troy to face the maximum penalty. He destroyed her wedding, her reputation, her sense of trust in people. He committed fraud against her. But another part of her, the part that still believes in redemption and second chances, wants this to be over. She wants to move on with her life without being tethered to Troy through a lengthy trial. After consulting with her family and her lawyer, Vanessa agrees to the plea deal on one condition. Troy must also agree not to contest the annulment and must publicly acknowledge his wrongdoing. Troy accepts. He has no other choice. In September, Troy Bennett stands before a judge and pleads guilty to identity theft. He's sentenced to 5 years of probation, ordered to pay full restitution to Vanessa for the loan and all wedding expenses, $43,000 in total, and required to complete 2 years of anger management and psychological counseling. The annulment is finalized the same day. The marriage is legally erased as if it never existed. But the criminal case isn't there.
The end of Vanessa's legal battle. Her father, Deacon Caldwell, files a civil lawsuit against Troy on behalf of his daughter and family. The suit seeks damages for fraud, emotional distress, and the destruction of the wedding reception. The lawsuit lays out in detail every way Troy deceived Vanessa, his affairs, his financial lies, his history of failed relationships, his manipulation and control. It argues that Troy entered into the engagement and marriage with no intention of honoring his vows, that he used Vanessa to maintain his public image while living a secret life. Troy's lawyer attempts to have the suit dismissed, arguing that the criminal plea deal should resolve all matters. But the judge disagrees. Civil liability is separate from criminal liability. The case proceeds to mediation. Troy, facing financial ruin from legal fees and mounting debt, agrees to settle. He pays Vanessa's family $30,000 to cover the wedding costs not already included in his criminal restitution. It's not about the money for Vanessa. It's about accountability. It's about ensuring Troy faces consequences for every way he hurt her. The fallout, 56 to 58. Troy Bennett's life unravels quickly. Crestwood Wealth Management terminates his employment after his guilty plea. They conduct an internal audit and discover Troy had been inflating his sales numbers and misrepresenting client portfolios. He's permanently barred from working in financial services in Georgia. Troy loses his apartment. He can't afford the rent without his salary, and with the massive restitution payments he's required to make. He moves back in with his parents in Macon, a 53-year-old mother and 55-year-old father who are baffled and ashamed of what their son has become. Cornerstone Fellowship quietly removes Troy from all leadership positions and suggests he find a different church community. The pastor meets with him once, offering spiritual counsel, but makes it clear Troy's actions have disqualified him from serving in any public-facing capacity. Troy's social life disintegrates. Friends stop calling. His social media accounts, once carefully curated to showcase his success, go silent. The videos from the wedding continue circulating online, immortalizing his worst moment for anyone who searches his name. Keisha Morrison cuts all contact. She blocks his number, his email, his social media. She wants nothing to do with the man who lied to her and used her to destroy someone else's life. Troy is now 33 years old, living with his parents, working part-time at a car dealership, his reputation destroyed, his future uncertain. He tells anyone who will listen that he was the victim, that Vanessa and her family turned everyone against him, that the legal system treated him unfairly. But fewer and fewer people are listening. Begins therapy 2 weeks after the wedding. She sees a counselor who specializes in trauma and abusive relationships. It takes months for Vanessa to stop blaming herself. She obsessively reviews every moment of her relationship with Troy, convinced she should have seen the signs earlier. The therapist gently helps her understand that Troy's deception was calculated and intentional. He was skilled at manipulation. That's not Vanessa's fault. Slowly, Vanessa begins to heal. She returns to teaching in August. Her students welcome her back with homemade cards and hugs. They don't know what happened to Miss Caldwell over the summer, and Vanessa is grateful for that innocence. Her church community rallies around her. Some members had seen the videos online, others heard rumors. But rather than gossip or judgment, they offer support. Meals delivered to her parents' house, cards of encouragement, prayers. Vanessa also connects with Lauren and Brittany, Troy's ex-fiancés. The three women meet for coffee and share their stories. There's a strange comfort in knowing she wasn't alone in experiencing Troy's manipulation. 1 year later, Vanessa writes an essay about her experience. She doesn't name Troy, but she details the warning signs she missed, the controlling behavior masked as care, the isolation disguised as devotion, the lies hidden beneath a veneer of righteousness. She publishes the essay on a blog focused on domestic abuse awareness. It goes viral. Thousands of women reach out to share their own stories of relationships with men like Troy, men who used faith, family values, and social respectability to hide abusive behavior. Vanessa realizes her story, as painful as it is, has purpose. She begins speaking at churches and community groups about recognizing red flags in relationships. She partners with domestic violence organizations to provide resources for women trying to leave controlling partners. Her message is simple but powerful. Trust your instincts. Honor your doubts. Your inner voice is telling you something important. Listen to it. 2 years after the wedding, Vanessa is 31. She's not married. She's not even dating. But she's happy. She's herself again, the spontaneous, joyful woman she was before Troy entered her life. She's learned that being alone is better than being with someone who diminishes you, that a destroyed wedding is better than a destroyed life. And she's learned that the explosion at the cake table, as horrifying as it was in the moment, was actually a gift. It revealed who Troy truly was before Vanessa was legally and permanently bound to him. In the end, that moment saved her. June 15, 2023.
a wedding day in Atlanta, Georgia. A day that should have been a beginning, but became an ending. Vanessa Caldwell's marriage lasted less than 6 hours, but the lessons from that day will last her entire life. Troy Bennett remains in Macon, completing his probation, attending court-ordered counseling, paying his debts. Whether he's learned anything from his consequences is unclear. What is clear is that his pattern of manipulation and deception finally caught up with him in the most public way possible. For Vanessa, life has continued. She's teaching, she's speaking, she's healing, and she's helping other women avoid the same fate she narrowly escaped. Because sometimes, the worst day of your life is actually the day that sets you free.
If you want to uncover more chilling true crime stories and see justice exposed, subscribe to Crime Vaults as we bring light to the darkest true crime cases and never miss the secrets hidden in plain sight.